In this module, we are going to discuss about the hatch tool in AutoCAD. So, for providing hatch to any geometry, we have to go to this hatch tool here in the draw panel in Home tab. Now, for using the hatch tool, we can either click on this hatch option directly, or we can click on this drop down to use the other options like gradient and boundary. So, from this drop down, I'll select hatch, and when you click on hatch, one contextual tab will open up named Hatch Creation. Now you can see this tab here. Previously it was not there. So when you click on Hatch, this tab gets activated. This is Hatch Creation tab. Now after opening this Hatch Creation tab, we have to select the hatch pattern from this panel. This pattern panel you can see here. We have to select the hatch pattern that we want to use. So we can see four patterns are there. If we want to access other patterns as well, we can click on this arrow over here, and that will open up a list of patterns, and from this list we can select any pattern we want. Now I want to provide a hatch pattern like this, so I'll just select this pattern I'll select. Now after selecting the pattern, at which region I want to provide the hatch, that at that region I have to move my cursor and click. So suppose I want to provide hatch here, so I'll just click here like this, and hatch will be created. Now if I want to provide different hatches to different regions, then after providing this hatch, we can select another pattern as well. But before selecting that pattern, we have to close this hatch creation. Otherwise, what will happen? The hatch pattern that we have created previously, that pattern also will change. If we select another pattern from here, like this pattern, if I select for other region, the pattern that we have already created, that will also change to this pattern. So if we want to provide another hatch pattern to other regions, for that, we have to close the hatch creation first, and then we have to open hatch again. Then we can select other patterns like this. I'll select, and suppose I want to provide this pattern here, then we can click here. Now you can see these patterns, they are very dense. So if we want to change the scale of this pattern, we can just come here in the properties panel and change the scale value like this. I'll change this value to 20 now and press enter, and now you can see the hatch scale is changed here. I want to change the scale, I want to lower the scale a little bit, so I'll just type 5 and press enter, and you can see scale is again changed here. Now you can see this pattern. If you want to change the angle, you can come to this hatch angle option here in the properties panel and just click and hold your left mouse button and just drag this bar like this, and you can see the angle is changing. The hatch pattern angle is changing. So you can change the hatch pattern angle like this. You want to change the hatch transparency, you have to come here and click and hold your left mouse button and just increase the transparency like this. You can increase the transparency like this, or you can decrease it like this. You want to change the color of your hatch, you can go to this option, and from this drop down you can select the color that you want to provide to your hatch. And always remember that during the creation of hatch, you have to keep this associative option on. If we don't keep this on, what will happen? That I'll explain next. So just let me close the hatch creation now. I'll go to this hatch option once again, and let us turn off this associative option now and create a hatch like this over here, and then close the hatch creation. Now let us change the geometry. I'll select this geometry, and now if I change this geometry a little bit, now what will happen? You can see the hatch pattern is also changing with the change in geometry. So as we change the geometry, the hatch pattern is applied to all the regions that we have over here. So I'll just press Ctrl Z to undo the changes. Now this was the associative hatch, but this hatch over here we have created by turning off the associative option. Now let us see what happens when we make changes to the geometry here. So I'll just click on this drag point and change our geometry like this. Now you can see the hatch pattern is not associated with this geometry. So that's why even though the geometry is changed here, the hatch pattern is not changing. So that is why when you create hatch, you should keep that associative option on. Now I'll just click on this undo option to undo the changes that I have made. Now these hatch patterns are already created. Now if we want to make changes to already created hatch patterns, we can do that by clicking on that particular pattern. Suppose we have created this pattern over here. So I'll just click on this particular pattern, and that will directly bring us to hatch editor. Here we can change the scale value. So I'll change the scale value here, and you can see the scale value is changed for this particular hatch pattern. We can change the angle value over here like this. We can change the hatch transparency and also color like this. Then I'll just close this hatch editor, and you can see the changes are saved here. Now remember one thing, for creating hatch patterns you should always have a closed region. Like this is a closed region, and you can see the hatch is applied to this area. Now here we have this open region. Now let's see what happens when we want to apply hatch in this region. I'll just go to this hatch creation option here. Then I'll select any of these hatch patterns. Let us select this pattern. And if I bring my cursor here, you can see as we have an opening here and the region is not closed, the hatch is getting applied to the entire region. You can click here and you can see the hatch is getting applied to the entire region. So always remember while applying hatch that you have to apply hatch in a closed region. This is how you can create hatch in AutoCAD.